welcome to the Undercovers Football Podcast. It is a glorious Tuesday night because we will get our official look at the Bills' schedule in just about 24 hours from now. So we got some exciting things on queue today. We'll be doing some mock schedules. Also, we'll finally hear our resident Yinzer's reaction to the Pickens deal. So that will be very entertaining to say the least. And yeah, we got some other schedule related topics to get underway. So let's get right into it. I'm Ben along with Connor and Paul, and let's get into our quick takes tonight. The Aaron Rodgers saga seems like it may never end, but it seems like now the smoke is that he'll finally sign somewhere. And this is not going to be much of a hot take for my quick take, but I think he'll go where a lot of people predicted him to go the whole time. Hint, it is not Minnesota, and I guess the Saints are an interesting wild card we can kind of throw into the mix because
now.
Yes, because Derek Carr officially retired last week. However, I think the Saints are going to roll with their quarterback room, which is definitely very underwhelming.
It's worse than Pittsburgh's, by the way.
It's debatable. I guess it depends how Tyler Shuck does.
Right.
But I would say like Will Howard's around the same level as a Mason or as a Rattler, in my opinion. I don't think Hayner's anything, but I mean, it is the Saints have some interesting guys with upside who, if Kellen Moore can develop, could maybe be something. But I mean, they basically drafted Brandon Whedon 2.0 and Tyler Shuck, who's already 26 years old as a rookie, which I guess gives me some hope for playing in the NFL because he's the same age as me. But yeah, I mean, I still think it's going to go how most of us expected. I think when it's all said and done, Rodgers goes to Pittsburgh, although their offense now is kind of a bit underwhelming after losing Najee Harris and now George Pickens plus Russell Wilson. So they lost their leading passer, leading rusher, and leading receiver from a season ago. You don't really see teams go through that kind of offensive overhaul within one offseason. And then the fact is, however you feel about Arthur Smith as a play caller, but we know if indeed Rodgers does end up going to Pittsburgh, which I think will happen, he'll basically be the play caller when it's all said and done, because you know how much Aaron Rodgers has to have his fingerprints on an offensive scheme and how much he likes to audible. So I think no matter what, it will be kind of the Rodgers show, which is kind of fitting because if I'm not mistaken, I think Mr. Rodgers, the actual show itself was from Pittsburgh. So it'll be kind of ironic if Aaron Rodgers, Mr. Rodgers, will have a stay in Pittsburgh. I mean, this will probably be the swan song for Rodgers, but I think we can all expect him to find a team unless he decides to wait until camp and see if there's any injuries around the league, or even waits a week or two into the season, kind of like what Flacco did a couple years ago with Cleveland, just to see if any contenders were to lose a quarterback, which could be interesting. But I think it's safe to assume that Rodgers isn't going to retire, and if he does sign soon, I think it will be with Pittsburgh, much to Connor's dismay.
Yeah,
he
because
still
the
needs
Saints have
his darkness retreat first.
Yeah,
we'll probably find out after his
the Saints at least have kind of invested some decent draft capital into a quarterback. Whatever you think of Tyler Shuck, he was a second-round pick versus Will Howard. As much as you love his aura, Connor, he was a sixth-round pick. And I don't think you could expect much, at least year one, from a sixth-round pick, whereas a second-round pick nowadays, I mean, a second-round quarterback starts more often than not in today's league. So, I mean, I don't think it will be that shocking if we go into week one and Tyler Shuck is the day one quarterback in New Orleans.
Yeah. Thing is, though, they were all saying that Will Howard should have been a third-round pick and could have been as high as a second-round pick by a lot of quarterback-needy teams. The fact that he fell in the sixth round to some people they claim that it's the biggest bargain deal Pittsburgh could have ever received, and that Pittsburgh probably got one of the steals of the draft in Will Howard when he fell to the 6th.
We'll see about that. My only thing is, if that were the case, there's tons of quarterback needy teams. I think they would have scooped him up earlier than he went.
Well, yeah,
It
I
was
mean,
still like the 9th or 10th quarterback taken in this draft class.
yeah,
So
but by then
it
all the
remains to be
quarterback needy
seen.
teams were taken.
But you don't
taken QB.
normally, and you don't normally, and the draft capital for a starter isn't really a 6th-round pick. Like,
Usually,
yes, there's Brock Purdy, who's the exception, and then you have to go all the way back to Tom Brady. But other
Tom
than
Brady
that,
was a
look
6th-round
around
pick.
the league. Like, the only quarterbacks who really aren't former 1st-round picks and have been successful were Russell Wilson, 3rd-round pick, which is 3 rounds earlier than Howard went, and Dak Prescott, 4th-round pick. And the only reason Prescott kind of had that opportunity was because Tony Romo was ahead of him, and Romo had a preseason injury. So I think I don't even think we'll see Howard start the year unless there is kind of a Tony Romo type situation in Pittsburgh. But I guess that does remain to be seen. But let's get into our next quick take, which talks about the George Pickens trade. So take it away, Connor.
Well, first and foremost, Paul, the take I made on Connor's takes has now officially aged like the most rancid milk you can possibly get. Straight up said he was never going to be traded. Oh, look, the trade I predicted that would happen on draft day, on the 2nd day, actually happened.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing that gets me just befuddled. Why do you trade him now and not during the draft when you could have potentially swindled the Cowboys out of a 3rd-round pick in this year's draft? That's what makes me wonder. Like, what are you doing? You could have easily taken one of the Cowboys' 3rd-round picks then and drafted a wide receiver. I know I just triggered Paul, and I triggered probably a bunch of Bills fans by saying drafting wide receivers because the Bills didn't. But that's all they had to do. They could have I'm pretty sure Jalen Royals was still available around that time in the 3rd round. They could have traded Pickens to Dallas and drafted Jalen Royals. I mean, there's just so many things they could have done. I mean, actually, I want to pull this up really quickly.
Well, Pittsburgh did. I mean, they have had some type of investment in the position, at least recently. They took Roman Wilson last year in the 3rd round, which we didn't really see much of last year. Yeah, hopefully this year he provides more of a contribution. And then I believe Calvin Austin was a 4th-round pick. Correct me if I'm wrong. A couple years back, actually the same class as Pickens. I mean, he flashed at times, but nowhere close to be a number 2 option. And I think the intriguing thing about getting a DK Metcalf is you would have had him opposite Pickens at least 1 year, which would have been one of the scarier receiving cores in the league.
Which is what now we were hoping for.
You basically just replaced George Pickens with an older version of George Pickens, which is interesting to say the least.
According to the team, they're not done, but I have question marks about what they mean.
Well, what is not done, because they just signed Robert Woods, and the only other like name that I don't even think it's a needle mover, because we've talked about him in the past. Last week's show where you were doing that tour would be Gabe Davis, and he just took a visit to San Fran, which is an interesting spot for him. But I mean, I don't think he's a number 2 option as we saw when he was in Buffalo. So
nope.
If Pittsburgh were to snag Davis, I mean, after Metcalf, Davis, Wilson, Austin, Woods, like that's. I mean, for the Bills fans that complain about the receiving core, like that's honestly shaky.
We have reasons to play.
The Bills receiving core at least has some.
You have Khalil Shakir. That's all that needs to be said. You have one of the best in the league, and Keon Coleman. So you have depth at the position. The Steelers
and Joshua Palmer or Elijah Moore, I think. And I'll throw in Curtis Samuel too. I think the Bills' 3, 4, and 5 receivers would all start on Pittsburgh. I
They
think that
would.
kind of
Mhm.
talks about the
They
state of
absolutely
the
would.
Pittsburgh receiving court. Now, you can think of Jalen Warren as a receiving option, as a
He
running
will
back,
be.
and he's a very good pass catching back. And Pat Freiermuth finally looked like a legit starting tight end last year, but at the actual receiver position, there's definitely some left to be desired.
You want to know who the Yinzers are getting excited about signing? About the thought of signing? Amari Cooper.
Oh my gosh.
There was a
Yeah, good luck with
Photoshop.
that.
Yeah, there was a Photoshop of Amari Cooper in a Steelers jersey going around the other day that was said, would Yids take Amari Cooper? You want to know what
That
most of the replies said no, but I saw a few very convincing yes replies, and I thought it was fairly
Well,
interesting.
people are going to remember the Amari Cooper in Cleveland, which was actually a
No, they're
legit
not.
starting receiver. But
No, they're not. They're going to remember Amari Cooper from his time in Vegas because he got traded to Dallas for a first-round pick back then.
well, I whatever. They're
Because Dallas.
remembering him as a legitimate starting option, but as we
he's
all know
not.
in Buffalo, he did
Mhm.
elevate the receiver room to an extent.
Yes, he did.
But even with Josh Allen, he severely underperformed. So the fact that he did not perform with Josh Allen, and you're asking him with Rodgers
with Aaron
or
Rodgers or
possibly
Mason Rudolph.
Mason Rudolph, Will Howard, any
Will
of those
Howard
three
is not
guys.
starting this season.
Well, I said that earlier, but
Yeah, I
we'll
know.
just say
You're
any of
absolutely
Pittsburgh's quarterbacks, whoever the quarterback is, if you're expecting Amari Cooper to perform better than they did with Josh Allen, that is a lot to ask, in my opinion.
It really is, but they're gonna. You will understand that Yinzers will ask everything out of any of their star players because they've been dying for a star player on the offensive side of the ball ever since Ben left. So all I'm saying is that they will be desperate enough. And the fact that Pickens is now gone really does leave a huge hole in the line. And Robert Woods is not going to fill that. You've got to fill that with a guy like arguably Amari Cooper or who else is left? Keenan Allen's left. I mean, that's not a name that's going to put the fear of God in an offensive.
It won't, but I think compared to Cooper and Davis,
I mean, I'd rather have Keenan Allen than either.
Yeah, if you look at what he did last year in Chicago in a passing game, they kind of underperformed. He still put up good numbers at times, and he was playing with a rookie quarterback. I mean, I think he's a good guy if you want to kind of help develop some of the younger guys like Austin or Wilson, which I guess you could say they signed Woods for. I mean, Woods is going to be your classic wide receiver 5. Don't expect anything more. Like he might have 200 yards receiving, which kind of is a stretch. But let's move on to our next topic, which I believe is our mock schedules.
I have a few off-season topics.
Oh, off-season topics. Let's yeah, we can get into those quickly. Yep, I see it now. So first impression of the Bills rookies at minicamp. I'll say just based off I've only seen a couple clips. But I'll give 2 impressions, or actually 3. One is Max Harrison looks very fluid with how he's able to turn his hips, and I think he has a lot of potential. Number 2, Deion Walker is an absolute tank of a human being, just massive. And number 3, they're running around in shorts, so I don't think you could really take away too much from rookie minicamp at the end of the day. Like, wait till they get pads on, wait till training camp starts and the bullets are flying. I mean, half the guys at rookie minicamp aren't even going to be on NFL rosters ever. Like, you only really want to focus on the actual rookie class, but I think just from what I've read and seen, I am excited about this rookie class, but I don't think you can really take too much away from your rookie minicamp.
Thank you. You're the one that said it because I saw so many Bills fans freaking out that Dorian Strong had an excellent minicamp and Maxwell Hairston did not. So I'm just sitting there like, what are you guys doing? Why are you complaining about the performance? Why are y'all so scared of having another episode of Kyer Elam in rookie mini camp, for God's sakes? No one has pads on. And this goes both ways. You want to know how the Yinzers were literally going ballistic because Jack Sawyer, Will Howard and Derek Harmon performed like complete freaks at our own rookie minicamp. We are all on both sides of the spectrum taking this too seriously. It is rookie minicamp. No one has pads on. You have to wait until training camp because what
Mhm.
could likely happen. Look at what happened with Ty Johnson. Ty Johnson was on the Jets, for God's sakes. They cut him. The Bills said, we'll take him, and look at what he does. He turns into a freak of nature. What are the
Yep.
odds that one of your late round picks, you know what? Let's have some fun. What's Kate or not Caden Prather, but that I can never remember his name. That wide receiver the Bills drafted in the 7th round. What was his name?
You just said it,
Caden
Caden
Prather.
Prather.
Oh, it was Caden Prather. Okay. Excuse me. Y'all
I'm
picked
like, did they
9
draft
times.
another receiver?
Yeah,
Did we
Paul would
miss
have been,
it?
yeah, Paul would have been very excited.
No,
if
it was
they
not.
had.
It was Caden Prather. But
Yeah,
I kind
Caden
of get
Prather.
it from. I kind of get it from this standpoint that, rookie mini camp, obviously you don't want to look too far into it, but a
Can't.
guy like Dorian Strong and Hairston, there's this one clip out there where where Dorian Strong is kind of like mentoring Hairston a little bit, just because
Good.
you look at what Strong, it was a different corner in college than what Maxwell Hairston was. Hairston relied on his speed and his quick feet in college, while Dorian Strong was kind of more of the technique
Wait a
corner,
second.
where
Wait a second.
you saw him using his hands and his hips more often
Paul, hang on.
in college. So
Paul.
I feel like what I took away from rookie minicamp was the connections that both Dorian Strong and Maxwell Hairston
Remember,
provided
it's
to
Max
one another.
Harrison.
Max
Max
Harrison.
Harrison.
He did say that at his
Really
press
quickly.
conference. He prefers Max. So
Really
Okay.
quickly.
So
We have a
Max Harrison.
hold
I
on.
think-
We got some breaking news.
yeah, this is an interesting little bit of news. We have a another visit for everyone in Bills Mafia's favorite former wide receiver. Gabe Davis is scheduled to visit with the Giants on Wednesday.
Yeah, I saw something about that earlier. I wasn't sure if that was legit or not, but I mean,
Well, it is.
it makes sense because Brian Dable
Yeah,
was with
Brian,
him for a
he's got
couple of years,
he's got a lot of
but
familiarity with
also
Dable.
the Giants, they almost seem like they kind of got a very crowded receiver room too between neighbors.
So do the Packers.
They just signed Darius Slayton to an extension, and they also have Wandell Robinson, and maybe they don't feel that strong about Jalen Hyatt, who was drafted in the 3rd round just a couple of years ago. But that is an interesting spot for him. And speaking of roster battles,
I had to put that in there after I saw it because I
let's
knew it'd
keep
get
it
people
with that
excited.
topic for the Bills roster, though. What are the biggest roster battle currently on the Bills roster? I think I'll stick with Paul's theme with the cornerback room. I think just with how many cornerbacks they have between them signing not only Dane Jackson and Trey White, but them also going out and drafting 3 rookies, and they're not going to keep 7 corners on the team. So
They'd be keeping more corners than wide receivers. That would be hilarious.
exactly. I think it's a possibility that all 3 rookies can make the team, and then you're probably looking at Benford, Johnson, and one of White or Jackson, which
Probably
I think
White.
could be a very well. It depends. I think it could be a very interesting camp battle because White isn't getting a lot guaranteed, and we know how much his coaching staff loves Dane Jackson.
Mhm.
And especially considering Dane Jackson can play special teams and is a very good special teams player, whereas White isn't. If they're performing kind of on the same stratosphere on defense, I could see a world where they actually keep Jackson over White just because of Jackson's special teams capabilities. But it will be interesting to see how that position group shakes out. Who ends up being the cornerback 2 opposite Benford? I mean, we all saw Benford injuries were a big factor, but we all saw Benford win the rookie job as a 6th round pick out of the gate. Does that happen again? Maybe with Dorian Strong, kind of like you were mentioning earlier, Paul, about the battle going on between Strong and Harrison. So it will be an intriguing mini camp OTA battle, however you want to slice it. That's definitely the most interesting battle for me. I guess if I had to give one more, maybe defensive tackle, just to see who all makes a roster.
Yeah.
I mean, is a possibility we don't even see Ogunjobi on the team this year because of his suspension and the depth behind him, or maybe we see a surprise trade like Dwayne Carter or a post June 1st cut on Daquan Jones, depending on how the rest of
Ouch.
the roster shakes out. So
Yeah.
that will be an interesting battle to watch.
Mhm.
I'm intrigued to hear who you guys have for your camp or for your roster battles.
The Strong Harrison battle for cornerback 2 is going to be something that's going to be watched throughout the rest of the offseason. I
Well, I
feel like
think you
that's
got to
in
put in both vets into the conversation too, and maybe
Mhm.
even Jamarcus Ingram, because we did see him show a
Right.
knack for the ball when he played, and he's still been
Mhm.
developing on the team. So I mean, I think there's a couple wild cards in there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think the cornerback battle as a whole basically is very interesting outside of, obviously we all know Christian Benford is your CB1. Outside of that, anyone could fit in the role of maybe cornerback 2. The other interesting battle, and I feel like this is going to start like getting some steam as we get closer to other workouts in the off season in June and in as we get into training camp is the defensive end battle. I feel like the
Okay, that's a
defensive
good one.
end battle, like
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of talk around, could AJ Epinesa be an odd man out and in the Bills edge room? Like who might
Hmm.
possibly take over his spot because you look at the Bills' defensive line as a whole, the Bills have a bunch of people at defensive tackle and defensive edge. There's going to
Agreed.
be one guy that's going to be
Sure.
that is going to miss the roster,
Mm-hmm.
and it could well possibly be a guy like an AJ
The
Epinesa
only
who's been
thing I'll
on the
Man,
say
Bills
that
the last few years.
that'd be brutal.
the only thing I'll say about that is he has been the Bills' most consistent pass rusher
Mhm.
over the last 3 seasons. No one on the team has gotten 6 or more sacks 3 years in a row. Not even
Yeah, that is
Rousseau, who
true.
just signed that big
Mm-hmm.
contract. So I still am inclined to think that he brings
Mhm.
um a lot to the table as far as just situational pass rushing, which I think he's very good at, not great. I guess it will just depend on how they view Javon Solomon, um, who
Mm-hmm.
showed some flashes of time, but still is a later pick. And Michael Hoyt is suspended. So
Yep.
it's going to be interesting how that ends up working out. But Connor, what's your positional battle to watch?
Well, first and foremost, because you brought up the fact that AJ Epinesa very well could be an odd man out, as much as you hate to think about it, I mean, I'll definitely be watching that defensive end battle during camp because if AJ Epinesa happens to be that odd man out and is for some odd, like less than 1% chance cut from the Bills roster, I'm calling Omar Khan myself. And I'm telling him grab him off off the board right now and put
I
him
feel
in
like
Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh has a lot of edges too, though.
Well, I mean, we did draft Derek Harmon, but Cam Hayward's
Edges.
getting edges. Okay, yeah. We really do. So I mean, hey, why not just player swap for player swap? We'll take Epinesa off your hands if he happens to lose the camp battle. But no, what I'm actually interested in, and this is going to sound weird coming from me because you would think Paul would be the one to say this. I want to see the receiver battle at camp, but I'm not
Okay.
talking about
Mhm.
one. I'm not talking about Shakir. I'm not really talking about two either with Keon because I'm assuming, well, not Keon. He probably won't fit two. I think you would probably put Josh Palmer at two. I would think. That's kind of why
Yeah,
I'm
the
curious to
order
Palmer
of the
see.
or
receiver
Coleman?
battle is going to
That's
be
kind of why I
interesting.
want to see how this goes because you could have a case for Josh Palmer at wide receiver two and put Coleman at three. You could have Keon at two, Josh Palmer at three, and then you could go all the way
Mhm.
down the line to fill out the rest of the positions. And I actually kind of think that when you look at the Bills depth chart, it actually is fairly interesting just to see what could happen, especially considering, yeah, you literally drafted one wide receiver and then signed Elijah Moore, which I'm still taking complete and total credit for that because I was the first one to say it. I literally tweeted out to AJ about it. It's like, why don't y'all take a chance on Elijah Moore? Oh, look, Elijah Moore is a Bill now. So I'm taking partial
Better get
credit
an
for this.
Elijah Moore jersey just because of it.
Apparently I should, but anyway, I think it'll be interesting because I know that there was a huge debate like a couple of days after the draft about the depth behind Josh Palmer because you've still got
Yeah.
Curtis Samuel, you got KJ Hamler, Laviska Shenault, and then Jalen Virgil. People apparently think that's enough, but I can't. Where do people think that that's enough? I mean, I want to see how the battles go at camp to see how they all end up lining up because I feel like you could put, you know, Shakir, Coleman, Palmer, and then Curtis Samuel, and then how many roster spots would they even give the Bills for wide receiver? How
Probably
many
6,
spots?
probably 5 actually. Sorry, that's
5.
how many they usually keep. So
So
I
early
think it's gonna
prediction.
be. I
Early
think it's
prediction.
yeah.
Shakir, Coleman, Palmer, Curtis Samuel, and Elijah Moore. And the rest either
Yeah, I
get
think that's
hit the
your
practice
5.
squad or they get
I think
completely
the
cut.
only way we see 6, and it actually wouldn't be if I think Prather has a good a good camp. I
That's
think it's
another thing.
actually.
Yeah.
I think it's if Chenault beats out Codrington
Yeah.
for the kick
Mhm.
returner job, they'll keep him on special teams because you remember he was a very good returner when he was in Seattle.
yeah.
But let's
You know
get
what's
into
wild? Actually, I did want to bring up one thing about Brandon Codrington because apparently he is only he's only a special teams guy, right? That was all that was all the Bills used him for. The
Yeah, and he
Steelers,
sat out most of the
yep,
postseason
the
because of
Steelers drafted a receiver or actually it was a cornerback in the 7th round, Dante Kent, who fills the same purpose. It makes me always wonder because sometimes 7th round picks don't make the roster. Imagine a Codrington swap for Dante Kent, and watch Dante Kent become the next freaking Cordarrelle Patterson on special teams while Codrington takes a step back in Pittsburgh. It would be very fitting because then you guys would be screaming about Dante Kent being the GOAT returner now, which
I don't know if the
you
Bills
never
will do
know.
that, but
You never know.
let's get
That's
into
the thing
the
about 7th round
exciting.
picks, man.
Let's get into
You
the
never know.
exciting part. Mock schedules. And I guess we can just each go in order, kind of give a brief breakdown. We don't have to go too in depth about this. But I'll start with mine, I guess. And I will, well, I guess just say the primetime games. So for my schedule, I have home against the Bengals week 1. I think that's primetime, which
Pretty sure that's confirmed too.
it hasn't been confirmed, but it is heavily rumored. That would be
Mhm.
a Sunday night game. Then I got at the Panthers week 2, at the Falcons week 3. So back-to-back road games against NFC South opponents. Then versus the Jets at home week 4. And then week 5 at the Texans, another primetime game. I haven't really figured out if this is gonna be Monday night or Sunday night. But I'll say Monday night because we already had a Sunday night. Home against the Saints, another primetime game against the Bucks. I'll put this at primetime. Josh Allen versus Baker Mayfield, cinema type matchup.
GOAT versus GOAT.
At the Patriots, at week 8, at the Browns,
Kill
week
them.
9, home against Miami, week 10, home against Philly, another primetime game.
Of course.
I guess I'll say
Super Bowl
this is a
preview.
Monday night game since I already had 2 Sunday night games.
Nah, give them a third one. Sunday Night Football. That's a Super Bowl preview right there.
I mean, that could very well be. I don't know if we've ever had 3 Sunday night games in a single season
It's
before.
Josh Allen. Make it happen.
It is, and he is the MVP, so
Yep.
they
MVP,
should
make it
definitely
happen.
be showing him off. Then I got home against
Absolutely.
the Patriots at Yinzerland, week 14.
Why that late in the year? You did that on
'cause
purpose. This is
I
when we
did.
start
I
tanking.
feel like it's a cinema type matchup.
It is because
Bills
that's when they start
versus
tanking.
Steelers. In a cold weather game late in the season
Yeah.
when
Yeah,
the
see,
snow is
unlike-
falling in
Yeah.
Pittsburgh. It's going to be a defensive battle, ground and pound. Then we always play the
What do you
Chiefs
want?
late in
Oh,
the year
geez, you
for
want Josh
whatever
Allen to
reason.
die? Okay.
No, he won't die.
Oh yeah, he'll die. Cam Hayward's gonna come for that booty.
Yeah, I'm sure he will. Not with Osiris
Okay.
Torrance in front of him.
Who? I'm kidding. I love that man.
Home against the Chiefs, since they always put our matchups against the Chiefs late
Praying
in
to
the season.
lose. Pray
It
to
seems
lose.
like. Oh wait,
Mhm.
it wasn't on the graphic, so I did miss it. But I do have a week 12 bye between the Eagles and Patriots home games. So
Good
we
time
do
for a
have
bye.
three home games in a row. Then we go
Oh boy.
at Miami. It seems like we always play home against Miami earlier in the season.
Mhm.
Yeah, because
And
y'all
then
complained about the sun a few years ago. That's why.
right.
I'm
Well,
kidding.
it
I know
happens.
y'all. I had to.
But
I had to say it.
we did play in Miami week 2 last year. Just saying. So I
We
feel like
did.
they
Oh, I
kind of
know.
switch it around. Then we got the Ravens game on Christmas Day. That's our holiday matchup. And then we end the season with a guaranteed win at MetLife Stadium against the Jets.
I like the idea. A guaranteed win because that's definitely. Hopefully, Justin Fields is still the starting quarterback for the Jets. That way, the Steelers get that beautiful third-round compensatory pick from the Jets
Right.
if he plays more than half the snaps. But I love that
Yeah.
schedule, Ben. The only thing I hate about it's that week 14 game in Yinzerland because that'd be at least in December. It'd be easier. It'd be a little more hopeful for me to make a plan to get there for that game to be there
Mhm.
personally. But that's about the time when we start tanking to reach our goal of our 9-8 Super Bowl. So
Here's
It's
this. I
I
don't
like
have
it.
any issues really with this
I love
schedule.
it.
I feel like week 1 is basically just it is going to be Bills Bengals week 1. I
Belt
feel
to
like
ask them,
that's
please. I would love to see it. Sunday night
I
football.
love I also love the week 12 bye.
Mhm.
I would like my bye. I would
late.
like the Bills bye anywhere from like week 10 to like week 13
It's
range.
a little
So
late,
I think that's a
honestly.
perfect
I
way.
like it later in the season though. We've had earlier
Yeah.
buys, and allows our
Early
guys to
buys
get
are
back from injury. Early
early buys
buys
though.
are terrible.
They
In
are.
a way, though, they're really nice because you've got all the momentum you can continue to build down the stretch.
No,
And then
they
Mm,
are
if you hit a
awful.
late buy, you kind of lose a little bit of that head of steam.
No, the
But
I
Bills had
mean,
late
if you
buys, and
go
it
like 10
helped
to
them.
13, that's not like necessarily late. I mean,
it's
some
not
teams go on the
bad.
bye week like week 14, and that could mess it
Yeah,
up a
now
little
that
bit.
sucks. You don't want a week
But I
Right.
14
think it's like perfect. It's almost like right in the middle of the season, not exactly
Mhm.
right, but it's pretty much in the middle.
Well, you
Now
could try to
let's
be like the Dolphins and Buccaneers who had a week 1 bye a few years ago.
let's get to Paul's schedule next and see what he's got in store for us. You want to break it down?
That's a beautiful
Yeah.
man up there
So
for that cover photo, Paul.
I feel
That
like
is a
this is a
beautiful
very. I made a few changes while I was making the first. This was not from the first vision. The first vision was completely different from
Okay.
this. But
Paul
I feel
even's
like
got the start times going in detail. I like it.
I like it
Yeah.
too. Wow.
So
No
I
Monday night
bef-
games.
no.
Hey,
I
I
feel
Interesting.
like
like
that.
Paul
I like
Paul
that
must
too.
hate Troy Aikman and Joe Buck. All right,
there's
I
one game
like it.
there's one game on this schedule where I feel like could get flexed into a Monday night or get flexed into a
Paul is
later
also
start time.
going heavy. What is that? 4 Sunday night games?
I love it.
Yeah, 1, 2,
Sunday night football.
3 Sunday night. Yeah, 4
Oh
Sunday
No,
night
man,
games,
yeah.
week 4.
and a Thursday night game.
Oh man,
All
week
right, let's hear
4
it in
in
order.
Pittsburgh. You really want us to put that belt to ass, don't you? Because that's when we're
So I
playing
go.
strong.
We start the season against the Bengals. We'll also host the Dolphins week 2. Go on the road for 2 against the Panthers and Steelers. Then we'll
Oh,
head back home for
prime.
the Saints. On the road to the Browns. Back home for the Jets. The Falcons and Patriots both on the road. Then we'll take a bye week after that. We'll play the Chiefs, Eagles, both at home. Go
Okay.
on the
Back to
road to the
back.
Texans and the Jets. And then we'll get 3 straight home games with the Ravens, Bucks, Patriots. With the Bucks and Patriots could possibly be your 2 flex games.
Okay.
Switch it to a Saturday or Sunday
I think
type
that'd be
deal.
That'd be
a
lit.
good game.
And then you end the season in Miami.
I was kind
You
of thinking
end it in
this.
Miami. Okay, I like
Yeah,
that.
I thought about that too because that's how it ended a
We
couple of
have the
years
same
ago.
vision.
I almost had it end in New England, and I also was thinking we might play the Eagles and Chiefs back to back again, like we did a couple years ago. I'll just say if that is the actual schedule, at the Patriots could be a tough game. Then
Mhm.
you play the Chiefs, Eagles, Texans,
That's a rough
And 2
stretch.
weeks later, Ravens and Bucks. Yeah, that could
Ooh,
be
that's a
a
brutal
rough.
stretch.
Yeah,
That
that
It is
would
a
be
very-
brutal. So I do. I mean, I know last year we did play. Like
Mhm.
the Lions, the 49ers really weren't as good as we thought they'd be, but we played the Lions and Rams late in the season along with Kansas City. So, I mean, it always looks tougher on paper than it actually ends up being, but on paper right now, that does look like a very tough stretch.
That
if
is
you put
brutal.
if you change the if there's one revision I would make probably on this is probably where the bye week would be. I would probably put it after the Chiefs and put it between go Chiefs by Eagles, kind of similar how we did it the last few years, where it
Mhm.
went 2 years ago and went Eagles by Chiefs, and last year was Chiefs by 49ers. So I feel like that could be a similar thing that would happen this year with the Bills, because I feel like the last few years the direction of the NFL has kind of been backloading the Bills a little bit in their schedule, where a lot of
Wait.
they'll soothe them into the start of the season and kind of put like all their important heavy games kind of in the middle / to the later part of the season.
Hang on, Paul. I just noticed something. Freeze for a moment. So your week 4 prediction is already going to be wrong. That is already confirmed. The Steelers will be taking on the Vikings in Ireland in week 4.
Mm.
So
So
you'll have,
Paul's already 0 for 1.
he's,
Love
he's
it.
yeah, and Ben,
Let's see
you
how it goes
were
on the rest.
yeah, so you got that right. Yeah, so we're playing against the Vikings in Ireland in week 4. Thank God it's not the
Mm.
Bills. That means I can actually get to Pittsburgh for the game if I can. But
You don't want to go
Whoopsies.
to Ireland?
no, because the Vikings are going to get absolutely clobbered by Dan Rooney himself.
No, I'm
So
saying if
right
it was
now-
Bills Steelers, you wouldn't go to Ireland.
I don't have my passport yet. Anyway,
Oh.
it's going to take me
Well,
forever to
sneak
get
on a
it anyway.
plane.
Yeah, okay. I'll morph into my alligator form and sneak onto the plane. All
You
right.
know how to drive planes. You can
Yeah,
figure
just
something out.
Okay.
just steal one or something.
Well, this ain't GTA, but anyway.
No, it would be well, I guess it still would technically be GTA Grand Theft Airplanes instead of auto.
Grand Theft Airplane. Yeah.
So let's go to your mock schedule, Connor.
Oh,
When
man,
we can get
I
to our
have
final
some
topic.
comments. I've seen
Oh,
it
I put
before.
I
Have
put y'all
some
through the
comments.
My only
You-
thing is, can I protest this? How come he got Keon for his graphic and I got stuck with Shakir? Come on, that's not fair.
I
Like,
love it. I'll take it. I'll take Keon. I'm actually kind of I'm amazed he didn't put a picture of Aaron Rodgers in there to troll me.
Then I can change it after the show.
No, it's
if-
all good.
if
It's
it's
all
such
good.
an
I do
issue,
still
but-
like. I still like Shakir. Don't get me
We
wrong,
love
but
Shakir. But yeah, I love I really when I was making this schedule, I was like,
I already know
and
what
fo-
Paul's comments are, and I agree with him.
first
So
and
let's
fo-
just hear the breakdown. Let's go.
okay,
Yeah, I need
yeah,
to hear
so-
this breakdown. I need to hear your thoughts before I rant.
Okay, yeah, because I wanted to put. I had a few thoughts when I was making this schedule, and I did kind of make it on the fly a little bit, but I had to see what the thought was. So first game obviously is against the Bengals. I wanted that one on prime time because I want to see Josh Allen and the world put the Bengals down a rung to start the season. That would be the most beautiful thing ever. And then week 2, I decided to put y'all back in Miami just because I thought it would be hilarious to see you guys go back into Miami during September when Florida heat is still in full swing, because I know there's going to be that contingent of Dolphins fans that gets really, really, really excited about playing
Mhm.
y'all that early because they think they may stand a chance when we all know they don't. But I wanted to see that happen. So then I thought, all right, let's bring you back home, take on the Jets, just beat them. Then bring the Saints into Highmark because why not?
Another
Then the week
beatdown.
after, that, you go face the Steelers during the prime time of the Steelers season. Put that on Sunday Night Football. You get in October. It probably won't be a snow game, but the vibes will be there because this team will still be playing, at their best. Then after that, Thursday Night Football beat down of the New England Patriots. I think, am I the only one that actually put down a Thursday night game on either of these schedule mocks?
No, I think Paul had one.
I had a Thursday night.
Oh yeah, right. Okay, so Paul,
I'm
you
just
had
like
one.
F your Thursday night football games. Give
I
me
mean-
a Thursday day game with Christmas Day because Christmas
Fair.
is Thursday this year. So
That is fair.
It is.
So after the Patriots, I was like, okay, so now let go back on the road, take on the Texans. Bills should hopefully win that one as long as McDermott doesn't pull a dumbass like he did last year.
Yes.
After that, take on the Bucks. That'll be a good Monday night game. I think y'all played the Bucks on Monday night one time a few years back.
Thursday
That was
night. I was at
It was
that
a
game.
oh,
Thursday
was it
night.
It
Thursday
was a
night?
great
Okay, yeah,
game.
that was a good game though.
Yep.
So
It was.
I figured prime time against the Bucks. So then I was like, okay, so let's put you guys against the Patriots again. What I really like about the way I wrote up my schedule is that out of those first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9 weeks, you've already played 1, 2, 3, 4 division games. So just like last year, you could already have the AFC East well in hand before you even get to December,
Mhm.
which would be another beautiful display. I assume you put the bye in there because I think I had a week 10 bye, Paul.
Yeah, I
Um,
think so. The dates,
some of
when I was making your schedule, I never switched things around.
Yeah, because I
Gotcha.
was gonna say
Currently,
the dates don't line up because
Yeah, I
they
was
don't
very
know.
confused. I was like, what is happening?
yeah, how do you play 4 days after a Monday night game? That would just be like, let's
Yeah,
just
no,
kill the
the
Bills
dates,
at this point.
the dates are.
It's let's ignore the dates. So you got
Yeah,
the
You need
I'm
Patriots.
currently fixing it as you speak.
Yes,
All right.
put Mike Tomlin in there. We do not care. But
Yep.
anyway, so after that, you get the bye. Then you take on the Jets again. Probably at this point, you're winning the AFC East.
Yep.
And then you take on the Chiefs. I would have probably made that a primetime game, but I didn't think about it when I started the list.
Okay.
Or actually, you make that one a primetime, but you also make the game against the Browns a Thursday night game because you're just going to put more belt to ass
How
against
many
that
Thursday
poverty
night games are you
franchise.
gonna give us?
2, one
All right.
against the Patriots, one against the Browns.
All right.
Theoretically, could have given you one against the
Wait, hold
Saints
on. Put
instead
that
of
back up.
yeah. Put that graphic back up. So this is where I think Paul wanted to shoot me. So after you go play at Cleveland, you go at Carolina to play the Panthers, then you travel a little bit further south, play at the Falcons, then you travel at Houston to play the Texans. Wait a
Just
minute, I put
stay
the
in the
Texans
South
in there
there.
twice. Am I stupid? I put the Texans in there
Okay.
twice.
I guess we're playing the Texans twice this year.
All right, yeah, the
Anyways, move
Texans are
on.
in the AFC East now. I don't make the I don't make the rules. But anyway, the last two are at least accurate. Then you play the Eagles, that one in crazy prime time. I should have put that one Sunday Night Football. And then you end the season against the ragtag Dolphins, who will probably be starting Quinn Ewers by that point because they're just that desperate to try to find a spark. Tyreek Hill's probably left. They're probably at like 5 wins or something like that. And you end the season and you clinch the number 1 seed. Ain't it a
I
beautiful way to end it?
I think I see where you messed up. I don't see Baltimore on here, right? So
That
we could just
that should have
say,
been that should have been
yeah,
Baltimore.
we'll say Baltimore instead of the Texans, so
Yeah,
Paul
that
won't
should have
be
been
quite as angry.
that should have been
Even
Baltimore.
though I don't know if they'll play 3 road games and 3 home games in a row, but I wouldn't mind ending with 3
Oh,
home games.
oh yeah,
But
no, it was supposed to
outside
be
of playing the Texans twice,
it was
I
supposed to be
don't
4 road
mind this
games.
schedule other than maybe twice on Thursday night. I really would only like to play 1 Thursday game, but it's not bad. Let's hear Paul's criticism before we go on to
There were
our
supposed to be 4
Yeah.
road
takeaways.
games. That's what I think
So
he was like hot under the collar about.
there's a few critiques I do want to
Yeah, like
make
4
to this
road games.
schedule,
Just
and
rip
it's
into him, Paul.
look, I don't like the one. I want to say this. It's going to be. I do not like the week 7 bye. I hate the bye that early. For the Bills. I mean, especially how you have the season ending. This let me quickly
Against
finish
Miami, come now.
really quick.
Come on, I like it.
So I really don't like the how you so you have a week 7 bye, and then the Bills have to play again. They would have to play the Texans, and the Chiefs are in there, and then I believe the Eagles are somewhere in there. So I kind of don't like how you have that bye stuck right at the beginning of the season, and then all the tough games, following right after that.
It's
I
just
would have
like
kind of
how it
like
ended
would have
last year.
hoped it would have balanced out just a little bit. I
Okay.
also again, I don't like the 3 road games. I think that's crazy to say that the Bills would have to play 3 road games. It's not the worst
They
3
did it
game
last
stretch.
year, remember?
It was 4, by the way.
True,
I
but
put
when you
you in
have
for
the
4 road
when you
games
have
in
the
a row.
extra home game,
you added the Texans twice though.
Yeah. I
All
don't
right, so
remember.
let's hear Paul's. Let Paul finish up real quick.
Yeah,
so
finish it.
with the extra home game, I'm hoping not to have to go on the road 3 straight times,
Sure.
rather than if we didn't have that extra home game. Obviously, you would go on the
Right.
road for
I
probably 3
agree.
times.
I would say 3 straight games in a row anywhere. Just because you would have to do it on the road too if you do it at home. So that would be my criticism of that one as well. But speaking of road, Adam Schefter released some interesting numbers today, and the Bills have like
Oh, that is a good one.
the second fewest miles traveled per
Mhm.
team this year because they don't have any international games. They don't have any West Coast games. The furthest they go west is actually Houston, and the furthest they go east is New England because they play the NFC South, which doesn't require a lot of travel.
Must be
Just going
nice.
to Atlanta and Carolina, and then they play the AFC North, which is pretty much a couple hour car ride, worth of a trip to Buffalo, and they don't go to Arrowhead this year, thank God. So the Bills, next to the Bengals, had the second fewest miles traveled, which will definitely be a nice little thing this season. And then more likely to happen, open on prime time or get a holiday game. Why not both? I said both in my schedule prediction, and I'll stick to both right now because I think no matter what, I think we're going to play on Christmas. Just a gut feeling. And the way it's looking now, we're opening in prime time. Whether it is indeed the Bengals, and if it's not the Bengals, I did have Baltimore as the opener for a little bit too. So if it's not the
Right.
Bengals, I would
Ew.
just swap the Bengals and Baltimore in my schedule prediction for the Bengals on Christmas in Baltimore week 1, even though I'd rather
Yeah.
play the Bengals week 1 since they
Oh,
always
yeah.
come out of the
Right.
gate super rusty.
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
But fun note. So it's 10,546 miles for the Bills all season. I love that for you guys because it's just going to make it's going to be a whole lot easier on the mentality of the players. If you want to hear an interesting fact, actually, even though the Steelers have to go to Ireland in week 4, they are only going to be traveling 15,062 miles overall
So
as well,
still not that much.
which is the ninth, which I think puts them at ninth lowest. So that is
Not bad.
super nice, even with a trip to Ireland in week 4. But really quickly, while we're on the schedule a bit, we talked the Bills schedule. I was seeing a very interesting Steelers Wire article about their prediction for the schedule. One thing that I noticed that none of us had in our own schedules. Do any of you think there will be any kind of like around the time of Thanksgiving? Do you think the Bills will get a Thanksgiving week game? I know they won't play the Lions or the Cowboys, but do you think like
I
on a
mean,
You're saying a
they could
Thanksgiving Day game?
or
Thanksgiving night.
yeah, like
No.
I mean,
because
it is possible. But I still think Christmas is more likely. I mean, we're on the topic
Mhm.
of primetime opener or Thanksgiving game, and
mhm,
I'm sticking with my guns
mhm.
on both. Or sorry, or holiday game, not Thanksgiving,
Yeah,
which
I
could
would
Yeah, I
agree.
include
think
Thanksgiving, but I think both are happening. I'm interested to hear
Mhm.
what your thoughts are before we move on to our next topic.
yeah.
Yeah, the reason is because the article I read on Steelers Wire, it's already confirmed we're going to Ireland in week 4, but their prediction for the Steelers schedule had our bye at week
Mhm.
7, which I really liked
So
because the meat of our schedule comes later because we'll end up playing the Lions on Thanksgiving Day, according to what he wrote. It's a guess,
So
obviously.
for the Bills, what do you have more likely? Sunday or a primetime opener, which would be Sunday night or Monday night, or a holiday game?
Well, I mean, I'm in your boat, Ben. Why not both? Why not
Sure.
open the season with Cincinnati and then you have a holiday game like on Christmas
Against
against
Baltimore.
either
Mhm.
Baltimore or one of the other harder opponents on your schedule,
I
like
would if
maybe
that does
Philly?
happen. Yeah, if that does happen, I would rather it be a home game though, so I
Mhm.
wouldn't mind Philly either. Paul,
Yeah, I mean,
what are your
for
thoughts
sure.
on the
Yeah,
topic?
I think the Bills are most likely at this point, with current rumors, are most likely going to get both. It just seems like it's just the year that the Bills, even though it's not like a crazy schedule for the Bills, it's still filled with its marquee matchups, and I feel
A
like
lot
the
of tough
NFL
games
would,
on the schedule. Yep.
yeah, I feel
There's
like the
like what,
Bills,
7
the
playoff
NFL,
teams from last year or something?
yeah.
Mhm.
So I
It's
feel like the NFL
brutal.
would want to highlight the Bills more often in this schedule. I
Sure.
mean, starting the season on Sunday Night Football, I believe that's something that the Bills have never done, is open the season on Sunday Night Football. So that would
Especially
be
at
something.
home.
You know
Yeah,
what?
that
I
would
just
be really cool to see. I mean,
right.
especially even if it's not the Ravens, even if it's not the Bengals, like, Josh Allen coming out of the tunnel, uh, fans screaming MVP,
Shit, I
and
would
then,
even take
Lamar
I
Jackson's on the
would take any
sideline.
of the divisional
Oh
opponents
man,
week
do that
1.
against Baltimore. I would love that. Baltimore
But
week 1, the Ravens fans in Highmark, and Josh comes out of the tunnel, and the whole Bills Mafia just starts screaming MVP,
Yeah.
MVP, and the Ravens fans just combust right on the spot because they're still so mad. They thought he was robbed when, oh my god, it'd just be hilarious. Please do. Even better, what if you opened against the Dolphins and you did the same thing? The
that would
minute
be
Yes.
cinema.
Josh
Whoever
Allen's
would
your daddy.
let's just agree, whoever they did it against, it would be
It would be
cinema.
great.
Oh, Pete Crow Armstrong home run, by the way. Anyways,
Oh,
Nice.
yay.
Pacers in 5.
yes, agreed. Go Pacers. But there's a
Better the
lot of
Pacers.
tough games.
The more motivated they make the Indiana Fever.
Um, that's fact. But anyways, we talk about being a tough schedule. Out of all these teams, who do you think will be the toughest matchup? And I'm actually kind of uh give a Paul like answer. Like
Uh-oh.
there's gonna be tough games galore between at the Texans, because the Texans loaded up in the offseason. Baltimore
Yeah.
playoff rematch is going to be tough. They're going to be motivated because Lamar didn't win MVP and we beat them last year, and they always play us better in the regular season. The Chiefs are always a tough matchup. At Philly, we don't even really need to say much about. Pittsburgh
No,
should
you
give us
don't.
a battle, and Cincy will be tough if they even get
Who?
a marginally better defense. But
Who?
a team that's flying under the radar, which the Bills always lose to. It seems like they always lose a game no one thinks they will. Besides
Yeah.
last year, really, they did generally take care of business for the most part. But a
Mhm.
team that actually have a
Houston?
dark horse to be a playoff team in the NFC, I actually liked what they did in the offseason, is I think the
Oh, I know where this is
Carolina
going. Yep.
Panthers are going to be a very difficult game, especially in Carolina. You remember last year, they're playing good ball at the end of the year. They
Mhm.
should have
Mhm.
beat the Eagles
Yep.
if Xavier Legette didn't drop that third or
Ugh.
fourth down pass from for Bryce Young, and they nearly beat the Chiefs too. The Chiefs had to make
Man,
a last second field goal to escape Bank of America Stadium with a
they
last
lost
second
so
win. So this is definitely a kind of
worst
a dark
15-win
horse
team I've
team.
ever seen in my
Yeah.
life.
And also best game on the Bills schedule. Well, I guess we'll just kind of answer both these at the same time just to make it a little quicker. But I'll go on my mock schedule. My best game would be a Christmas Day game against Baltimore. So that's the toughest game. And my favorite game, because I think that could be cinema, the aura
Oh,
of
yes.
the last two reigning MVPs playing in the
Mhm.
snow in a
Mhm.
game which is probably going to have major seeding implications.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I definitely think those are some great games.
Oh, yeah. I love the idea of a Christmas Day game against Baltimore for the Bills, especially just with Josh Allen running out of the tunnel and the fans just going MVP, MVP at
That would be great.
once would be cinema. But what's even better is I'm really hoping that it is seeding implications, because all you're going to do in December is just make the Ravens more miserable by just knocking them
Mhm.
further down the wild card standings. But
Yeah.
before I go into my premier games on your schedule, I want to hear Paul's, because I know Paul's going to have some interesting opinions on this.
I feel like there's a lot of, like Ben said, there's a lot of games on the Bills schedule that are tough, but the Bills always lose that one random game in the season, I feel like Panthers could give the Bills a little bit of trouble, but I feel like the Bills would take care of them quite easily. I feel like the team probably that gives the Bills some trouble. I think I'm going to stay in the NFC South. I think it could be like going the road to like the Falcons or even hosting the Bucks at home, either late in the
Ooh,
season when
Tampa
games
Bay.
become crucial for the
Mhm.
Bucks, or even in your guys' schedule when you guys have the Bucks somewhere in the middle of the season towards the
Mhm.
beginning of the year. I feel like the Bucks can give the Bills some trouble, but I feel like the team that gives the Bills the most trouble, I think having the Eagles having to, even though the Eagles are coming to Highmark Stadium, you remember that game 2 years ago between the Eagles and the Bills. That
Oh
game was
man,
neck and neck. It went to overtime, even though that game was just a rainstorm the entire time. Both
disgusting
teams just were
performance.
just fist to fist all the way through, and now you have to add the addition of Saquon Barkley to that offense, and plus that entire Eagles defense. I feel like that is the toughest game on the Bills schedule,
Mhm.
and I hope at that point in the season the Bills' run defense is caught up to par and playing at a great level. Because honestly, you look at my schedule, you get the Eagles and you get the Ravens about 3 weeks later, and I
The
mean
two
you're
best
going
running backs in the league,
from
arguably.
right, you're going from Barkley to Henry within a span of 4 weeks. So I feel like
Rough.
that's an important stretch of the season. Hopefully, the run defense at that point is going really good. But I think the best game on the schedule, I think, I honestly, I would love to be in the stadium week 1 against the Bengals or Ravens
Oh
in
man,
Sunday night
yes.
football to open the season. I feel like that would be the best way to open the season. But I also feel like the best game on the regular season will be the last regular season game in Highmark Stadium. I feel like that would be a must see, must way ending, whether it's in the under the lights on Christmas or a 1 o'clock Sunday game. I feel like
Mhm.
attending or being at and witnessing the final regular season home game in Highmark Stadium, that would cap off
Mhm.
a wonderful uh season for the Bills at home.
You know, it's
Let's
actually a
hear
fun
your
fact. If
your games now, Connor, real quickly because
oh
we're
yeah,
running out of time here.
oh yeah. So it's actually a fun fact. The very last game in Highmark Stadium that I had for in my own schedule, if you noticed, was in fact the Philadelphia Eagle. Well, no, it was the
It was in
Miami
Miami.
Dolphins.
That would be a great
But that would be a
regular
great way to
season
send it off
finale.
too.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly
'Cause
for the
remember, we
for
still have
Highmark.
playoffs too.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
So the way I looked at it was you end the run of regular season games in Highmark Stadium by saying, "Oh yeah, we own Josh Allen owes your franchise in the old stadium, and he's going to do the same thing to cross the street in a year." So what better way to start it off? But as far as teams that, the Bills might slip up with. So, yeah, I mean, I would honestly agree to both of your points. I mean, you've got the Bucks who are already really, really good, and their receiving core just got even better when they got Amika Ibuka in round. I think that was their first round pick, which
Yes.
was admittedly wild for them to pick him there when they need so much more help. But I feel like now that after a little while, if that all lines up, that's going to be a disgustingly good offense that could give any defense issues. And yeah, I agree with the bit about the Panthers. I think they're going to be a very sneaky team that's going to make the NFC South really, really good, aside from, well, the Aints. But that, I mean, I got to be different, right? And I got to say the exact thing that I was going to say and that you all knew that I was probably going to say.
Pittsburgh.
Do you remember 2021 week 1 when you lost to
Oh
Pittsburgh
my
in a game that
gosh.
everybody said you should have
This
won?
was so predictable. Yes. Yes.
That's what I'm
Yes.
talking about. The aura in the stadium when the Bills show up is going to be unmatched because no matter when it is, if it's
It's
I'm
gonna
not-
be.
it's
I hope
gonna-
you realize it's gonna be half Bills fans there because of how close it is
Well, no kidding. I hope
to
it is.
Pittsburgh. So it's gonna be a Bills
hope-
takeover. And
Well,
if you
no, good. I
remember what
hope it is.
happened last time the Bills played in Acrisure Stadium, which I don't
We
think
don't
it was
call it
called
Acrisure.
right, but
We
when
still
it
don't call it that. It's
right,
Heinz
but
Field to all of us diehards. We've
I
been calling
agree,
it Heinz ever
but
since.
hear me out. I believe when the last time the Bills played at that particular stadium, it was still called Heinz Field, and
It's
Josh
always Heinz Field.
Allen walked down that Pittsburgh's defense after the Renegade song played, and they clinched a playoff spot in Pittsburgh's trap. So that's
Ironically,
happening
yes.
again. But now let's hear your favorite game on the schedule as we
Other
wrap
than-
I
up.
think there was a Taron Johnson pick, or is that a Trey White pick in that game?
There
I think it
was
was a
that
Trey
two
White.
Trey
was-
Whites
That
game.
was
There
Tre'Davious
was
White, I think.
there were two Trey White picks in that game.
I don't know. What
And I
was
forget who
that?
else. There was definitely at least 3 or 4 picks, but let's get back to
Yeah, I want to
Connor's
get back to
favorite
what I was
game on the
saying.
schedule besides Pittsburgh, obviously.
Besides Pittsburgh, because I'm hoping to actually be at that game if all goes well. But
You should
no.
go to a game in Buffalo too to experience old
yeah, I
Highmark.
want to. It's just
before
that would
it
be
closes.
a really. I want to, but it'd be a really, really hard sell to go to that and then go to one in Pittsburgh. against the
Well,
Bills.
I guess just wait to
But-
go to Pittsburgh in the future years because that stadium isn't going anywhere anytime soon.
No, it ain't. But as far as favorite games, I'm gonna be a little bit off on this one too. from
Oh,
what
are you
y'all
going to say the Bucks?
No, I'm actually gonna say I hope you guys get the Browns or the Bengals, or not the Bengals. The Bengals are already gonna be on prime time because I just hope you just.
I
beat
like how
the
you're
living
saying
tar
all
out
the
of 'em.
favorite games are the Bills road games. I feel like that's a little ironic.
Well, no, I just want to see you guys put belt to ass against the Cleveland Browns. That's all I want.
It will
do that,
happen. You
please.
don't need to worry about it. That will
Just
happen.
win that game, beat them, beat Baltimore, beat Cincinnati. Just take care of business for us in Yinzerland, so we don't have to worry about them that much. Unless Will Howard somehow does start and goes on his Ben Roethlisberger arc, then you won't have to worry about anything at all. But
Yeah.
that's just a guess.
By
That's
this
just
time
that's
tomorrow
opium.
night, we should know what the final schedule will look like, and then maybe next week we can do kind of a more in-depth breakdown, maybe give some early predictions, but that kind of takes up all the time for the show tonight. I hope everyone enjoyed Connor's Yinzer ramblings. They'll be definitely making weekly appearances probably from here on out.
Obviously.
But other than that, like, comment, subscribe on all platforms. Follow the Undercovers cast on Twitter and follow each of our individual pages. And yeah, big Kyle Larson, Kansas Dubs.
Yeah. God,
and
last week was great.
go Bills.
Go Bills.
Go
Don't
Bills.
say it, Connor. Okay.
Zula.